The story opens with the Demon King sitting on his throne. He narrates that his name is Kim Jang-cheol, an ordinary college graduate. His narration is interrupted by a sigh, and he proceeds to say, "Well, at least I used to be." Like most stories nowadays, yesterday, he suddenly possessed the body of the Demon King Kratos, the final boss of the game he played in his free time. The aim of the game, Paladin of Blood, is to revive the ancient hero who has fallen asleep. But as he narrated a recounting of the story of the game, he stopped, saying it wouldn't be of help to him right now. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. He turned his attention to the level 15 aid demon, Zephyros, who reported that the preparations for war had been completed. Outside, countless demons, monsters, and dragons gathered in front of the demon castle, with their weapons raised in the air. A level 534 demon, the prince who drinks blood, Asarat, addressed the others saying, "Let's end our starvation with today's great invasion." He adds that the tragedy of being born on a barren land and the pain of having to eat their kind will end today as they make history by ripping the humans apart. The other demons erupted in cheer, and the panel pans out to the other three demon generals, a level 531 demon, Cold Monarch, Sergi. Then to the level 555 demon, Archduke of Fog, Hartok. And finally to the level 539, Black Boulder Tyrant, Baal. With the morale of the demon army at an all-time high, Kratos took the stage, and the demons erupted further. Kratos was determined to stop the invasion no matter what. He addressed the crowd, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Listen up, demon army." The demons went silent, and Kratos ordered that from now on, instead of attacking the humans, they would focus on farming. The four demon generals were stunned, and a moment later, they erupted, protesting against the idea of farming. Terrified by the four demon generals, Kratos shouts, and the four demon generals, struck by fear, stop their protest. Kratos knows that if they start the invasion, then he will die at the hands of the level 9,990 playable character, Aged Kimchi. Kim Jang-cheol became a graduate student in a farming course at Korea University, in hopes of becoming a farmer. He was clever, so he became the ace of the course in no time. Being the top student meant his professors came to him for favors. One professor came to him asking if he could write his thesis since he was so clever, and another asked him to help with this year's project because he was good at doing things like that. And the final one asked him to plow the fields since he's good with his hands. In the end, Kim Jang-cheol ended up becoming their #1 slave, and one day, after being drained, he sat on his couch, wondering what kind of life he was living right now. He questioned why he was doing all of the work when the professors were getting all the credit. In rage, he shouts, "All those fuckers, I'll kill them all." His dopamine was so depleted that he was starting to go crazy, and the only way to get a dopamine hit was to play games. So he turned to a game that was so difficult that no player had cleared this game for the 19th time. He wanted to feel a sense of achievement so badly that he played the game without sleeping. He beat the game for the first time, the second, and the 10th, and a while later, he became the first person to clear Paladin of Blood for the 19th time. He stared at the screen with a dead look in his eyes, trying to convince himself that he was happy. He says the 20th playthrough will have an insane difficulty, so he wanted to level up first before attempting it. He continued playing, and sometime later, he hit level 9,990. The max level in Paladin of Blood is 9,999, and he decided that this should be enough to clear it for the 20th time. He started his 20th playthrough, and a prompt appeared asking him to confirm. Kim pressed yes, and suddenly his television lit up with a blue light. He shouted, "What the hell is happening?" And suddenly his soul was sucked out of his body and pulled into the TV. In the sky, a bright star appeared, and we see Kim's soul flying through the sky like a shooting star. He started to panic, but he calmed himself with the thought that he was clever. His body was blue, so he concluded that he was a soul, which probably means he won't die even if he hits the ground. He looked around, noticing the Tower of Life, and he quickly realized that he had entered Paladin of Blood. Sometime later, he noticed that he was approaching the tomb of the Paladin. Excited, he pushed forward, shouting, "Fuck yeah, I'm going to possess my character Aged Kimchi, which is almost at max level. His life of being invincible and strong is about to start." But as he drew closer, Kim stopped momentarily, realizing that he didn't want to look like his playable character. Suddenly, he changed course. Confused, he questioned where he was going. The color of the sky suddenly changed to a reddish hue, and sometime later, a demon sitting on a throne came into view. Kim pleaded, saying, "Please no." In the present, Kratos sat on his throne, and he let out a sigh. This entire situation was driving him nuts, and if he hadn't had that stupid thought after looking at his character, he would have become the most overpowered being in this verse. Frustrated, he berates himself for having that stupid thought. In the hallways of the castle, we see Zephyros making his way to the throne room to report to Kratos. His attention was drawn to a voice claiming that Kratos has gotten weaker. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a problem with waging war on the humans. Zephyros walked closer to the door and listened closely. Inside one of the rooms, Aseroth asked the other demon generals to join hands with him to cut off Kratos' head. He adds that if they succeed, then they will share Kratos' authority. Hartok asks what they will do if Kratos hadn't gotten weaker. He points out that if he hadn't, 2 out of the 4 of them will either die or suffer a grave injury. Sergei chimed in saying if Aseroth offers to be the meat shield, then she will join in. As the 3 discussed, Baal's stomach was grumbling. Suddenly, Aseroth's tone shifted, and he asked the other general if they will be willing to join him if he gathers evidence that proves Kratos has gotten weaker. They all agreed that if Aseroth can prove that Kratos has gotten weaker, then by the rule of the demon realm, they will have to kill him. Zephyros, who had been silently listening in on their conversation from outside, quickly made his way to the throne room, and he reports to Kratos that the morale of the demon army has plummeted, and there have been more cases of people attacking and devouring each other internally. Furthermore, some demons left without notice. He goes on to say that the 4 generals are enraged, and are saying that he has gotten weaker, and are planning to work together to cut his head off. Kratos started sweating nervously. If the 4 generals attack him, he will definitely lose his life. Just then, a thought came to mind. He didn't end up possessing kimchi, so he thought that maybe charging into the human world wouldn't be a bad idea. Zephyros pulled out a magic orb, saying he had a video from inside the tomb of the paladin, which General Ogmius sent. The video showed Kimchi massacring the demons as they begged to be spared. After killing all of the demons, Kimchi turned to the camera, almost as if he was looking into Kratos' soul. Kratos started panicking, and as sweat nervously dripped down his face, he says charging into the human world won't work. He has to stay in the demon realm no matter what. At this rate, he is stuck between staying in the demon realm, risking appearing weak in front of the 4 generals, and charging into the human world and getting killed by his ridiculously dressed character. He lowered his head to hide the tears streaming down his face and whispered, "Why did I have that stupid thought before possessing kimchi?" He quickly resolved himself to solve the food issue in the demon realm and stood from the throne. Zephyros asked where he was going, and Kratos replied, "Pardon? Oh, I'm going to look at some land for farming." Zephyros stared at him and asked why he said, "Pardon." Confused, Kratos stared back, questioning what he meant. Zephyros reminded Kratos that he is narcissistic and arrogant. Furthermore, he has 0 manners, so him saying pardon threw him off. He asked Kratos to never do that again. Kratos couldn't tell if Zephyros was trying to provoke him. He wondered if Zephyros had always been this type of NPC. In the game, Zephyros appeared just once, before the battle with the Demon King. But for some reason, he was quite popular. The first time he met Zephyros, he appeared in front of the boss room asking him to go back, but Kim quickly defeated him and entered the throne room to face Kratos. Many players respected him for his loyalty, but no one knew why he was so loyal to the Demon King, and he was starting to get on Kratos' nerves. Zephyros says Kratos' blunder this time is unprecedented, and that he has never met a demon lord who lost that much trust from the demons. He pulled out a pen and notepad asking Kratos if he really plans on farming in the demon realm. He wrote something down on the notepad and says he didn't know Kratos' memory was only as good as a pigeon's. Kratos tried to scare him, reminding him that he is the demon lord and that there will be consequences if he continues. Zephyros ignored Kratos' threat and says he will continue. Frustrated, Kratos wonders why Zephyros isn't scared of him. The scene shifts to a barren land, and we see Kratos and Zephyros walking together. Zephyros reminds Kratos that former Demon Lord San Kratos himself have already tried farming in the demon realm. With the harsh and extreme temperature differences, Kratos should be aware that nothing grows on this land. Kratos says he knows that this land is called the Land of Death. Then, with a confident expression, he adds that with his current abilities, it's possible to save this land. He hated farming, but right now it's the only way he can survive. He suddenly knelt and dug up some dirt, then put it in his mouth. Immediately, Zephyros pulled out his notepad and wrote that the demon lord has become a beggar who likes eating dirt. Kratos ordered him not to write that down, but Zephyros replied that he is just performing his duties. He says recording the demon lord's chronicles is important. Kratos decided to ignore Zephyros for now, and he spits out the dirt, noting that the ground has 0 nutrients and 0 nitrogen. Nitrogen is an element that's necessary for the growth of plants. Plants are unable to make use of the nitrogen in the air by themselves, even though it makes up 78% of the atmosphere. The atoms form solid triple bonds, making it nearly impossible for them to undergo chemical reactions. Thus, humanity developed the nitrogen fixation process through chemical engineering, leading to a huge increase in food production. However, to do that in the demon realm is impossible. There's nothing to be used as the foundation for farming. This gave Kratos the idea of using the nitrogen fixation mechanism in nature. Using the high voltage from lightning would oxidize nitrogen into nitrite, and if it is then mixed with rainwater and absorbed, the soil becomes fertile. Luckily, the main technique of Kratos is Bloody Strike, a skill that explodes both lightning and moisture at the same time. He confidently asked Zephyros to step back, and he scratched his hand to activate the skill, but it hurt more than he expected. He cried out in pain, and afterwards he turned around, noticing the glares from the 4 generals. Kratos shrieked, and Zephyros says it seems Kratos has 100% gotten weaker. Kratos says Zephyros is definitely an assassin who plans to provoke him to death. The pain from scratching his hand was better than dying. He dug his claws into his hand once more and ripped, shouting, "Bloody strike!" His blood splattered on the ground, but nothing happened, and he held his hand, whimpering in pain. The 4 generals approached from their hiding spot with menacing grins on their faces. They asked Kratos if he was feeling unwell. Kratos panicked, and the scene shifts to the human realm, where we see Kimchi staring at a town in the distance. It's faint, but he has some memories of his previous life. He says he's lived this life more than 10 times, and that he moved because of the summon of duty, but he stared at his hand, saying that the voice is gone. The summon of duty no longer tells him anything, and he questioned what he should live for now. He clenched his fist and walked away in the opposite direction from the town. The scene shifts back to the demon realm, and Kratos is confronted by the 4 generals. With a grin, Aseroth reminds Kratos that in the demon realm, the strongest gets to rule. Kratos was terrified. Each of the 4 generals is incredibly strong. Furthermore, he doesn't even know how to use a skill. He made a terrified expression, and Aseroth mistook his fear for him releasing pressure. A bit taken aback, he asked Kratos if he could defeat the 4 of them in that state. However, when he looked back at the other generals, they had taken shelter behind a tree. Aseroth nervously asked what they were doing, and the other generals told him that they will see how the fight goes, and if it looked possible, then they will join in. Aseroth started sweating nervously, and he called the other generals evil bastards. They reminded him that they were demons, so of course, they would be evil. Zephyros says, based on the long tradition of the demons, all fights are to the death, and he brought up a live broadcast. Aseroth picked up his weapon and resolved himself. Kratos continued panicking. He had tested his strength by picking up random objects in the demon castle, since the demon lord is supposed to be strong, but he wasn't that strong. Aseroth announced that he would get started and charged at Kratos. Kratos had seen Aseroth's movements before, and he knew that it would either be a thrust or a slash, but he wasn't confident that he would be able to dodge it. However, his body automatically moved to the side, dodging Aseroth's attack. Confused, Kratos questioned how he was able to dodge the attack. He observed Aseroth's stance and noticed his left foot was pointing forward, which means he was planning to use a thrust attack. It's the exact same motion as in the game. Hartok asked the others if they saw Kratos' expression when he dodged the attack. He says Kratos was about to counterattack and tear off Aseroth's arm. Sergi wonders why he didn't and says they should continue observing. Kratos dodges Aseroth's next attack with ease, but he didn't know how he was doing it. When he first faced Aseroth in the game, he got stuck. Aseroth was fast with a wide range of attacks. He died multiple times, but finally, on the 128th try, he was able to defeat him. On the next 18 playthroughs, Kratos was able to make a complete fool out of Aseroth with a hit-and-run strategy. Back to the battle, Aseroth was starting to get frustrated. However, Kratos was starting to enjoy the fight. Kratos' grin terrified the other generals, and Kratos goes on to embarrass Aseroth, dodging his attacks while laughing and dancing. Frustrated, Asarat gritted his teeth and called Kratos a scumbag. Kratos felt relieved. However, he still doesn't have a way to defeat Asarat. But as the fight went on, he realized that this world shared the same rules as the game. A prompt appeared stating that Kratos has realized the basic rule of this world. Kratos recognized the prompt from the system. It was the same thing he used to see in those manhwas. Another prompt appeared, stating that Kratos has succeeded at dodging his enemies' attacks with high concentration, and as a reward, a part of the game system that is used by playable characters has been unlocked. Asarat charged at Kratos, and a prompt appeared announcing that Kratos has unlocked the targeting function. Suddenly, Kratos could see a green target box on Asarat. This was the targeting system used when activating special skills. Without a moment's hesitation, Kratos scratched his hand and shouts "Bloody Strike." Asarat was hit with the lightning skill, and the other demons who were watching through the live broadcast erupted in cheers. Asarat fell to his knees, and Kratos stood towering over him. Kratos was shocked. In the game, Bloody Strike was an instant death skill, yet Asarat was still alive. He hit Asarat with the same skill again, and the other generals who were hiding behind a tree trembled in fear. Asarat fell face first into the ground, and Kratos didn't know what to do because Asarat wasn't dying. He received a message from the system telling him that his attacks have torn off all of Asharat's clothes. Kratos was confused, and he wondered if the messages were being sent by some kind of pervert. Another message appeared stating he unlocked a new feature, Inventory's Armor Removal. Kratos was intrigued and quickly checked the new feature he unlocked, but he was quickly disappointed when he realized that the new feature just showed him his equipment. He shifted his focus to Asarat, who was passed out. He wasn't strong enough to kill him, but this gave him an idea. Since Asarat isn't dead, he can still target him and use the Bloody Strike skill. And he can infuse the ground with tons of nitrogen. He praised himself for being so smart and turned to the other generals, who seemed to be scared of him. He called Sergi and asked her to tie Asarat up tightly. Sergi was embarrassed. She wondered if Kratos was trying to humiliate her by making her tie up a naked man. She tied him up quickly, completing Kratos' step 1 of preparing a lightning rod. Asarat quickly recovered, and once he gained consciousness, he shouts, "The undying Asarat has completely recovered. You have indeed gotten weaker. To think you can't kill me with Bloody Strike." Suddenly, he was struck by Kratos' skill, and Kratos says that with this, he can oxidize the nitrogen in the air into nitrite. He called Hartok and ordered him to cover the area with fog so thick that water starts flowing. Hartok was puzzled. He grinned while thinking that Kratos is planning to make the whole place wet, so the lightning will be more painful. He activated his ability and spread fog all over the area, and Kratos used his skill once more. Kratos' blood splattered across Zephyros' face, but he stood unfazed with a straight face. Sergi and Baal looked on, feeling bad for Asarat. Kratos got so excited that he made a face. He says with Asarat as his lightning rod, he can improve the quality of the soil, and he might even get a bountiful harvest. He repeatedly struck Asarat with the skill, and sometime later he stopped to check the quality of the soil. The soil was being infused with nitrogen. Next, he needs to improve the soil itself. The loose monovalent structured soil neither allows oxygen to enter nor drains water well. For farming, crumbly, granular structured soil is ideal. Kratos stood, realizing that what he needs now is manure. With a terrifying expression, he turned to the other generals and ordered them to get him shit. The other generals had his blood splattered all over them, and they wondered if Kratos was planning to smear shit on Asarat after making an example out of him. They collectively agreed that that was cruel even for a demon king. The scene shifts to a forest in the human realm. Kimchi made his way through the forest when suddenly his attention was drawn to a call for help. He approached, peeking from the bushes. He saw two men, a brown-haired man wearing a trench coat and a blue-haired man who looked injured. The man with brown hair tells Kimchi that they were attacked by a group of goblins, and the blue-haired man says he will compensate Kimchi if he helps them out. Kimchi walked out of the bushes, scaring the two men with his attire. He tells them they have nothing to fear because he's not suspicious, but they were very suspicious of him. Kimchi noticed that the blue-haired man hurt his leg. He picked him up and asked the brown-haired man to lead the way. As they walked, the blue-haired man introduced himself as Envoy Rivaj Asrahan, and the brown-haired man as his servant, Diol Frontera. He asks Kimchi who he was, and Kimchi says from now on, that's what he needs to find out. Thanks for watching, you amazing sausages. If you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button. Also, you might as well subscribe while you're down there.